My mom destroyed my FBI security clearance, so I sent her to prison. The background investigator didn't look me in the eye. He just slid a single sheet of paper across the metal table in the interview room. It wasn't the conditional offer of employment I had spent the last 6 years working toward. It was a notification of discontinuance. My application to the FBI had been flagged, halted, and effectively shredded. The reason was circled in red ink: financial insolvency and vulnerability to coercion. My name is Caleb. I am 26 years old, a Georgetown graduate with a double major in criminology and computer science. I speak 3 languages. I can strip a Glock 19 blindfolded and code in Python while sleeping. I have spent my entire adult life curating a resume that is bulletproof. I don't drink to excess, I don't do drugs, and I obey the speed limit. I am boring by design. I wanted to be a federal agent more than I wanted to breathe. And until last Tuesday, I thought my path was clear. I was wrong. The enemy wasn't a foreign state actor or a criminal syndicate. The enemy was making lasagna in a kitchen in suburban Ohio, waiting for me to come home and put on an apron. To understand why a middle-aged woman would sabotage her own son's future, you have to smell Miller's Market. It's a smell that sticks to your clothes and seeps into your pores. A mix of floor wax, deli meat, and quiet desperation. My parents opened the grocery store in the late 80s. When my father died of a heart attack behind the butcher counter when I was 12, the store ceased to be a business and became a shrine. My mother, Elena, didn't just run the place. She was held hostage by it. She believed that as long as the open sign was flickering in the window, Dad wasn't really gone. And she needed a partner. She didn't want an employee. She wanted a codependent. She wanted me. "You have a mind for business, Caleb," she would say when I was doing homework in the break room. "Why go to Washington to chase bad guys when you can build a legacy right here?" "I want to serve, Ma," I'd say. "Serving family is the highest duty," she'd reply, her eyes hard and wet, like stones in a river. I escaped for college, but the guilt was a long tether. Every weekend, I drove 3 hours back to reconcile the books, negotiate with vendors, and fix the ancient compressors. I did my duty, but I made it clear. Once I got the badge, I was gone. The bureau was my escape velocity. When I saw the rejection letter, my first reaction was confusion. Financial insolvency? I had 0 debt. I had paid my way through school with scholarships and night shifts. I had a credit score of 810. Or so I thought. I walked out of the field office in a daze and pulled up my credit report on my phone. The app took a moment to load. When it did, I nearly vomited on the sidewalk. My score wasn't 810. It was 480. There were accounts I didn't recognize. A maxed-out credit card with a $20,000 limit opened 6 months ago. A personal loan for $15,000 from a predatory online lender. A lease on a luxury SUV that had been repossessed for non-payment. The total debt was nearly $50,000. All of it was in default. All of it was under my name, my social security number, my life. My first thought was identity theft. Some hacker in a basement had bought my data on the dark web. I drove straight to the bank where the largest credit card had been issued. I sat in the fraud department, shaking, explaining to the manager that I was a victim. "We need to trace this," I told him. "I'm applying for a federal position. This destroys my clearance. You have to find the IP address where the application originated." The manager, a sympathetic guy named David, clicked away at his keyboard. "Usually, these things are done via VPNs," he said. "But let me check the metadata on the digital signature." He paused. He squinted at the screen. Then he turned the monitor toward me. "That's odd," David said. "The application wasn't made from a mobile device. It was a desktop. The IP address resolves to a local business account." I looked at the string of numbers. I didn't need to run a traceroute. I recognized the ISP tag. Miller_market_business_DSL. The application had been submitted from the computer in the back office of my mother's store. I felt the air leave the room. It wasn't a hacker. It was Elena. I looked at the transaction history. The money hadn't been stolen to buy drugs or flee the country. It was used to buy unnecessary inventory for the store. Pallets of high-end organic pasta we couldn't sell. A new industrial slicer we didn't need. And the SUV? It was parked in her garage under a tarp. She wasn't trying to get rich. She was trying to anchor me. She knew that the FBI requires a pristine financial background. She knew that financial vulnerability, is the #1 reason candidates lose their top-secret clearance. If I was broke, if I was drowning in debt, the government wouldn't touch me. And if the government wouldn't touch me, I would have nowhere to go but back to the butcher counter. She had murdered my dream to keep her employee. I thanked David, stood up, and walked out. I didn't go home. I went to a frantic, cold place in my mind, the place where I stored the skills I had learned in criminology. Evidence, intent, leverage. If I simply disputed the debt, the credit bureaus would investigate. They would contact my mother. She would lie. It would become a civil dispute between family members. The debt would stay on my report for 7 years. My clearance would be denied forever. The only way to clear a debt like this, to scrub it clean so the feds would reconsider, was to prove it was criminal identity theft. I needed a police report. I needed an arrest. I needed to wear a wire on my own mother. I drove to the store. It was late, past closing. The neon sign buzzed in the twilight. I found her in the back office, counting the drawer. She looked up, her face lighting up with a genuine, terrifying warmth. "Caleb, you're early." I made peppers and sausage. I sat down on the folding chair. I looked at the computer where she had ruined my life. "I didn't get it, Ma," I said, my voice hollow. She stopped counting. She didn't look surprised. She looked relieved. She walked over and hugged me, smelling of bleach and rosemary. "Oh, honey, I'm sorry. I know you wanted it." "They said my credit was bad," I said, pulling back to look at her face. "They said I have $50,000 in debt. I don't understand." She turned back to the desk, avoiding my eyes. "Well, the system is rigged, Caleb. I've always told you. Washington doesn't care about people like us. They look for any excuse to keep you out." "But I don't have debt, Ma." "Maybe it's a mistake," she said, shrugging. "Or maybe it's a sign. God closes a door, He opens a window." She gestured around the cramped, windowless office. "We had a good month here. I was thinking if you come back full-time we could expand the deli. Make you manager. Real partner. Is that what you want?" I asked. "You want me here?" "I need you here," she said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "This place is too much for me. I did this for us. Everything I do for this family. To keep us together." I reached into my pocket and turned on the voice recorder on my phone. "Ma," I said clearly, "did you open those credit cards in my name?" She stiffened. "Why would you ask that?" "Because the bank tracked the IP address here. To this computer." She turned slowly. Her face hardened. It wasn't the face of a criminal mastermind. It was the face of a mother who believed she knew better. "I saved you, Caleb," she said. "You were going to go away. You were going to get shot or blown up or just disappear into that bureaucracy. You would have forgotten me. Forgotten your father. So you committed fraud?" I pressed. "You forged my signature? You ruined my credit score on purpose." "I bought things for the store," she snapped. "It's family money. It's all the same pot. And the car. The car was for you. For when you came to your senses and came home. I didn't steal. I invested in us. You tanked my clearance, Ma. You knew the FBI checks credit." "Good," she shouted. "Let them check. Let them see you're needed here. You think I was going to let you walk away and leave me to die alone in this store? I birthed you. I raised you. You owe me." "I owe you?" I asked quietly. "Yes, you are my son. You don't belong to the government. You belong to this family. And the $50,000? You admit you spent it." "I spent it on the business. On your inheritance. Stop looking at me like I'm a stranger, Caleb. I did what a mother has to do." I felt the vibration of the phone in my pocket. I had it. Confession. Motive. Admission of the specific acts. "You're right, Ma," I said, standing up. "I can't be an agent with this debt." She smiled, a small, victorious smile. "Exactly. Now wash up. The peppers are getting cold." "I'm not hungry," I said. "I have to go to the police station." Her smile vanished. "What?" "I have to file a police report for identity theft," I said. "It's the only way to clear my record." "You can't," she laughed nervously. "It's me. You can't report your mother." "You aren't my mother right now," I said. "You're the perpetrator." "Caleb, stop it. You're being dramatic. Sit down. If I don't file the report, I am liable for the debt. and I will never work in federal law enforcement. I will be a clerk in a failing grocery store for the rest of my life. That is the future you chose for me. I am choosing a different one. I turned to the door. If you walk out that door, she screamed, her voice cracking, you are dead to me. You hear me? You destroy this family, and you are no son of mine. I stopped. I looked back at the woman who had raised me, the woman who had taught me to tie my shoes and ride a bike, standing amidst the piles of invoices and unpaid bills she had tried to drown me in. That's fine, I said, because according to the credit bureaus, the Caleb you know doesn't exist anymore anyway. I walked out. I drove to the precinct. I played the recording for the desk sergeant. He looked at me with pity, but he took the statement. I filed an identity theft affidavit with the Federal Trade Commission. I sent the packet, the police report number, the affidavit, the recording transcript, to the credit bureaus and the FBI security officer handling my file. The fallout was fast and ugly. Because of the amount, over $50,000, it was a felony. The police arrived at Miller's Market the next morning. My mother wasn't arrested in handcuffs, but she was cited and ordered to appear. The local news didn't pick it up, thank God. But the town talks. The shame she tried to weaponize against me ricocheted and hit her square in the chest. She pleaded guilty to a lesser charge of fraud to avoid jail time. She got 5 years of probation and was ordered to pay full restitution. But she couldn't pay. The store was underwater. The court ordered the liquidation of Miller's Market. I didn't go to the auction. I heard they sold the industrial slicer for pennies on the dollar. The building was bought by a developer who turned it into a vape shop. The legacy she was so desperate to preserve was dismantled because she tried to use it as a prison. My credit report was scrubbed clean. The bureaus removed the fraudulent accounts once the police report was verified. The FBI Security Division reopened my file. I had to sit for a special polygraph about the incident. Did you know about your mother's actions prior to the discovery? The examiner asked. No, I said. Do you harbor any allegiance to her that would compromise your duties? No. How can you be sure? Because I turned her in, I said. The machine didn't jump. I was telling the truth. I got the clearance. I entered Quantico 6 months later. I excelled in financial crimes investigation. Turns out, having a personal understanding of how fraud destroys lives is a powerful motivator. I haven't spoken to Elena in 3 years. She lives in a small apartment in the next town over, living off Social Security. Sometimes I get a letter. No return address. Just pages of guilt, Bible verses, and accusations. She tells me I chose a job over my blood. She tells me I am cold. Last week, I was in my office at the Hoover Building, reviewing a case file on a ring of credit card fraudsters targeting the elderly. My phone rang. It was an unknown number from Ohio. I let it go to voicemail. I listened to it later. It was her. She was crying. She said she was sick. She said she needed money for a specialist. She said, Caleb, please. I'm your mother. You have a top-secret job now. You have money. Help me. I sat there in the silence of the office, the seal of the FBI on the wall behind me. I thought about the $50,000 of debt. I thought about the open sign. I thought about the cage she built. I pulled up her file on my computer. Not a criminal file, but a personal dossier I keep. I ran a quick check on her financials. She wasn't sick. She had just taken out a new credit card with a high interest rate and maxed it out on online gambling. She was looking for a bailout. She was looking for a new host. I deleted the voicemail. I blocked the number. The background investigator was right to be worried about vulnerability to coercion. Family is the ultimate coercion. They know your buttons because they installed them. But he was wrong about my insolvency. I am not insolvent. I am free. I closed the laptop and went back to work. There are bad guys out there who steal identities, ruin lives, and think they can get away with it because they're untouchable. It's my job to prove them wrong. And I'm very, very good at my job.